Get your torches, sharpen your pitchforks, and get your mob on!
Is basically the short version of this review if you just want to stop right here. Well, as if most reviews is here to do, well, what could possibly be the worst film of this year. And by far, definitely the most controversial from its very inception. Disney's live-action remake of Snow White. Boy, have I not seen a film that was instantly disliked as much as this since probably Tom Hooper's adaptation of Cats. It is the controversies for this film have been well documented, and I'm not going to go full on into it. And it was pretty clear that from the moment that the first trailer was shown, that this was going to be hated from pretty much everyone. Strangely enough, I've been seeing a lot of the reviews haven't been that good for this. Most critics seem, especially those on Rotten Tomatoes, are leaning towards the 40 range, while the audiences are giving this more around the 20% rating. Well, I can clearly say that I'm definitely among the audience range, and, well, what more can I say that I knew going into this that this was going to be a bad film. But the thing is, I should keep in mind when it comes to Disney's live-action live-action remakes, I should say, is that I did have optimism originally for this adaptation. I know that sounds sacrilegious, just hear me out. Well, I've been against the idea of Disney doing live-action remakes of their animated movies pretty much all of them. I mean, you already know how much I hate the Lion King remake, but likes of Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and coming out this year, Lilo and Stitch and Moana. If there was some films I was interested in seeing them do, it was pretty much anything until Black Cauldron. I felt these films were in the line for maybe getting a bit of a touch-up, and, at first I thought, okay, maybe that was the way it should be. I mean, the Cinderella remake was decent enough, from what I've heard, and the Jungle Book remake, most internet critics were dismissive of it. The general audience and critics connected to major review companies were giving it good reviews. So yeah, there was hope for this, and again, Dumbo wasn't too bad. I'm not going to mention Alice in Wonderland and the 101 Dalmatians remakes a little bit because they started before the craze was really getting popular. And I don't know if I can qualify Pete's Dragon in that, but when Pinocchio came out, that's where things started to seem a little bit concerning. But, with Snow White, I was interested to see if they could do it right. The original film is close to being 90 years old, and it's probably in line for a remake, but yeah, those trailers did not help it at all. And, well, I could basically sum up the plot in a few seconds, but I'll try. Snow White is a princess in a faraway kingdom who has been oppressed by her stepmother, the Queen, played this time by Gal Gadot, who was, ever since her father was basically killed in battle. Yeah, I'm not gonna beat around the dead horse. They say he's dead, he's missing, but it's pretty clear that he's actually dead, though Snow White doesn't know, and nor does she know that the Queen was involved in this. Yeah, I'm giving spoilers here, but come on, there's not much to spoil. For the most part, the Queen is willing to let Snow White live in peace and far away from the public eye. But one day, when speaking of her magic mirror, she learns that Snow White has exceeded her as being the fairest of the land, so she resolves to murder her stepdaughter. Her first tasking a huntsman to do it, he backs out on her very quickly, and it instructs Snow White to escape into a very disturbing forest, which isn't disturbing at all like the original, where she comes across a bunch of woodland animals who lead her quite quickly to the home of to a cottage in the forest, which is the home of 7 CGI dwarfs. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that later. Just let that be for now. Sure, as Snow White starts to get to know the dwarfs and she, along with a bunch of thieves who live on the outskirts of the kingdom, including one that she saved earlier from the Queen's wrath. Her stepmother learns that she's alive and sends her army out to get her, but alright, fair enough. I guess she doesn't want to get her her jewel-filled hands covered in blood, but that doesn't work, so she resolves to, until she decides enough is enough and turns into an old woman for for only one scene, and somehow swiftly turns back. And to kill her with with a poisonous apple that will inflict sleeping death on her. Yeah, as you can see, there is a lot of new things in this, and look, I will admit that the original film has a lot of plot threads that I am very you do wish could have been expanded on. Like the kingdom itself, you only really see Snow White, the Queen, and the Huntsman as the only humans living in this kingdom. So you don't really see anyone else. I mean, yes, there's the prince, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, you don't see any other people in this, and you don't know how big of an army the Queen has. So at least to see an army is one thing. But I don't know. In a way, that sort of makes the Queen less willing to get down to business when she realizes that the Huntsman's failed on her. Yeah. And, you know, there are other issues with that too. I mean, look, there are obviously things that have to be changed. I mean, like, obviously the box that the Queen instructs the Huntsman to leave Snow White's heart in after he supposedly does the job, if he puts the heart of a pig in there. Okay, I'm pretty sure that had to be changed out, but here's the thing. The Simpsons made a joke about that earlier, and I think about 10 or 11 years prior, so that doesn't work out anymore. As I said, the army and the kingdom, whatever. No real changes. Can't really say much there. And the prince is now not a prince, he's a thief. That Snow White rescues helps out at the very beginning. And he is basically very mediocre, not even trying to be Flynn Rider, but he's not. I mean, Andrew Burnham tries doing, I think, a decent job, but, well, I don't know what to say about his performance, but whatever. And he's supposed to be Snow White's love interest, where they have more scenes with that. Yeah. Yep, and, you know, I mean, and even things I was kind of hoping that they would do. I mean, obviously, have more. One problem I do have with the original film is there's no scene of Snow White and the Queen interacting before she turns into the old lady to kill her. And while we do get a few scenes here, I don't know, it kind of makes me now glad that they didn't do it in the original film in the 1930s. Yeah, and the way the Queen, and throw in the fact that one of the biggest, plot threads there was kind of hoping they would address a bit is the fate of the magic mirror after Snow White, returns to life. Because honestly, that was one of the other issues I had. I mean, the magic mirror is obviously one of the most iconic things in the original film. And this time we actually do see it get destroyed, and is now responsible for the. I'll get to that. But there's the other thing with that. It's happened before. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep had a boss fight against the magic mirror, which destroyed it. So, again, it's been done before. No matter what changes they've made from the original story, it's happened before in a previous adaptation. So it's not original. And that's the thing. There's nothing original in this that you can take out of it. Everything that they changed, you can tell, has been done before in a previous adaptation or in things they're trying to rip off. Like the kingdom. It's clearly that this place doesn't have any color. You can understand why, but in my view, the design of the kingdom that the Queen rules over is clearly modeled after Wicked. A bunch of other things, but I feel Wicked is the best thing I can compare it to. Everything about Snow White in this and how she's portrayed is clearly modeled. In fact, this whole film is clearly modeled after the new Disney princess film since 2010. So basically, anything from Tangled onwards, you can tell it's clearly, taken into account, used to make this film the way it is. And you can tell that the main thing of the oppressive kingdom and corrupt politicians is pretty relevant to everything that's going on and everything that's happened to America since 2016, and maybe even referencing how politicians were slamming Disney over their comments over certain political movements when they were run by their disgraced former CEO Bob Chapek. Yeah, there is a lot that you can take from this. In fact, it doesn't. It just adds up to making this feel very, very, underwhelming and everything. I mean, and the fact, and it's not just, of course, taking account of the story changes. I mean, there are other. It's not just that's limited to it. I mean, you look at the performances. Rachel Zegler, I think, has copped a lot of criticism, in particular of how she's claimed that the original film is now outdated when it comes to their portrayal of Snow White. Well, okay, sure. I mean, she's not Snow White in the first film isn't really that of a complex character, but she's charming, she's sweet, and it's meant to be a fairy tale. With this, yes, Snow White, her portrayal of Snow White is meant to be seen as a bit stronger, but though she's not waiting for a prince to save her, she's waiting for her father to come, even though it's pretty clear that, he's dead, so she's still waiting for a man to come and fix things until she decides, okay, time to stand up. In fact, even the one scene before she runs away that she stands up to the queen, it's clear it doesn't really work in any way. Yeah, pretty much. Though I will admit that her singing is actually not too bad. I will give credit where credit is due. Rachel Zegler's singing is decent. With it, but while I can give sort of praise to her, I can't say the same for Gal Gadot as the Evil Queen. And in my view, this is the most I hate to bring up a comparison to anything connected to The Wizard of Oz again, but she is as miscast as the Evil Queen as Mila Kunis was as the Wicked Witch in Oz the Great and Powerful. She is really bad in this, and yeah, I agree with pretty much everyone with that she is horrible in this. The Evil Queen is a character in the original film that I like, but I get more enjoyment when she becomes the old woman, the old witch, I should call her. And her transformation scene is very lackluster. I mean, it just happens in just blinking a few seconds. I mean, the original film, it sounds like she's going for a painful transformation. In fact, even the spell she creates to turn herself into the evil witch has more ingredients to it. She just feels more disturbing when you see her in pain. But with this, it's just blink. There you go. In fact, as I said, she turns back into her regular self very quickly after she kills Snow White. Like, my gosh, that's just, oh man. And then you throw in her defeat, and her defeat in the first film, in the original, is iconic. A great villain death that still stands out today. But the way she dies in this, after Snow White returns and convinces her army to turn their backs on her, and the mirror finally deems her no longer to be the fairest of the all, she breaks the mirror, and the mirror pulls herself into it. Jeez. Yeah, there is a lot that can be discussed with it, but even her singing isn't good. Yeah, I can see why it was her choice was controversial. Now, look, I'm sort of one who sort of takes their time and waits to see what the finished performance is like. When I hear the controversial casting, because it has happened before that there's been controversial decisions of casting and end up being great in the end. But yeah, this can't say that it didn't. Can't say there was nothing changed. More, but at least then there's the dwarfs. Yeah. The CG look for them is horrible. Why didn't they just stick with, little dwarf actors? especially considering that some dwarf actors actually do voice the characters even though they're completely CG. And, not only do they not play a part, really any part at all in the film, they also don't really do anything at all in this. Like, not just they don't take care of the Evil Queen in the climax, but my gosh, they just... I can barely think of a thing. I mean, okay, Doc does save Snow White's love interest after he's attacked by the Queen's Guard at one point, so okay, there's that, but that's really about it. Grumpy is probably still my favorite dwarf in this. I mean, I won't lie, Martin Kelber is good as him, but I don't know, just Grumpy's charm in the first film is completely lost in this, and the fact is that there's even one line in this where he just basically retcons his whole character arc in the first film, in the original, very quickly. Happy, bashful, sneezy, and sleepy, barely play a role in it at all, and oh, Dopey. Giving him a voice at the end, having him talk, look, I'm sure it's gonna come back and bite. A lot of people are giving criticism over this, but having him whistle isn't too bad, but, his speaking voice, jeez, I picture Dopey have a bit more of a squeaky, boyish voice, just not really a teenager voice in my view. Although I will admit with Andrew Feldman, when I first heard that voice, I didn't know it. I thought that was Josh Gad for a second because his voice sounded exactly like him. So when I got to the credits, I was like, okay, thankfully, because I don't know, Josh Gad in a lot of the Disney films he's in, yeah, I just kind of like roll over my head because it's obviously clear he's imitating his performance as Olaf. Yeah, so there's that. The new songs are boring. Like every new song in this is horrible. The ones they replace, the silly song, the Someday My Prince Will Come, the Wishing Well song, like these are great songs, but these new ones they replace them with are just dumb and boring, And even the added lyrics to Hi Ho or Whistle, or the changes to Whistle While You Work, they don't work at all either. I don't care about the romance as well. Yeah, it's a lot more. There's actually a bit more to it, but 2 days of being in love with each other is still not as much. It's still ain't as much big improvement over a 1 day thing or whatever. Yeah, but I think the clearest thing with this is the fact that that's basically all I can really say. I mean, this is clearly a bad movie. But I bet you're wondering, do I consider this the worst of Disney's live-action remakes? Well, yeah, I think I do. But there is one thing that... however, the thing is that I should mention, even when I was watching this, I didn't get quite angry with this when I was in theaters. Not as... and let me point it this way. The Lion King remake hurt me because, and I still consider it the worst movie I've seen in theaters because they didn't change much with the original film. It was still looking quite... It was still the same film with a few changes here and there. The changes they did make were pointless. And the fact of the matter is it was just still the same film, and there was no point to remake it because it was just still animated in general. It's just 2D going to CG photorealism. It makes no sense. The Pinocchio remake is probably the worst of rated film, and it makes sense considering the whole things they got wrong with that. But I can go in and have fun with it because, okay, it was released on Disney, exclusively on Disney Plus. That helps, but I can have fun with it comparing it to other films by Robert Zemeckis that aren't really that good. I mean, I love the director, but I know he's made a lot of bad films in the past, so I can use that to compare it to some of his worst and, have a bit of fun with it. With Snow White, the main thing that makes it the worst, even though I think the other two are worse films, can be summed up in just one word. Lifeless. This film has no life to it. It has no charm. It's just... There's no joy to be found in this. There's no soul, and that's pretty much summed up in everything that these actors are sort of talked about in press interviews and even the filmmakers. I mean, I'm not gonna bag Mark Webb too much in this. I mean, I haven't really done so now, but he's not he hasn't made. Not all these films are good, but he's made some good films I do really enjoy. But but obviously this one's now probably his worst. But yeah, just looking at this film and hearing interviews around this, just basically sums up as this film that doesn't have anything in this. There's no magic in this. It's just a boring, empty void that if you're not prepared, that if you just go in expecting, if you're not expecting it to be horrible, it could consume you. And that's the thing. At least going into this, I knew it would be a bad experience. So I was just waiting to see how bad it can be, much like how I viewed the Borderlands film last year, or when I finally watched Madam Web. But yeah, with this, yeah, if you're not prepared, in fact, even little kids probably wouldn't get any sort of enjoyment out of it, and it's unfortunate. The original, in fact, the original film still is celebrated to this day, and every 10-year anniversary for the film, it gets replayed and people talk about its praises. I mean, it's almost 90 years old, so when it turns 90, it'll be a big celebration. Hell, going forward, when it reaches its centenary milestone in about 10 to 12 years, it's going to be the original film's going to be celebrated hugely. I can picture this getting a massive worldwide re-release, the original film. It's the film that the first animated film ever released. It's going to be celebrated like non-stop. Disney will promote it like hell when it reaches 100 years old. It's going to be a big deal. But I do think that this film will get, the remake will get talked about a fair bit with that, just to say, oh, how they failed. But yeah, it's clear to say this film doesn't have anything of redeeming factors, and is clearly a lifeless piece. Which is why I'm giving this a 1.9 out of 10 half stars. Yeah, I'm on the bandwagon. This is probably the worst. I do think I did give the Lion King remake a worse score, and I don't know, I probably won't change that, to be honest, but yeah, I can't defend this film. It's a boring film, and it's just, yeah, I really hope, honestly, this film wins Disney the Razzie Award for Worst Picture. They've never won it before. Okay, maybe they now own a few who have won Worst Picture of all time since the Fox acquisition. But they've also, plus they've had a few films where they've won worst actor, worst supporting actor, or connected to it. But if this one wins it, I think that might finally inspire the change of Disney. That Disney might need to stop their live action remakes or change it up. I mean, look, I know there's still more to come. In fact, there are 3 films of the period where I think they could do a remake that are meant to come, being Bambi, the Aristocats, and Robin Hood. I can only imagine how horrifying some of them can be. Yeah. But we won't know till they come out and have fun. Yeah, and see what they're like. I guess in many ways I could have been a lot more negative on this film than I probably was when going to watch it. But the one thing that was saving me from feeling a lot more chipped is the fact that I knew while I was going to watch a bad film with this, I knew only a couple days later I'd see a fun film released by their rivals Warner Brothers in less than a week. In fact, that'll be my next review, the day that the Earth blew up, a Lynch movie, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, Hazard from Mass Reviews is out, and I will see you for my next video. Ciao.